Good morning, YouTube friends. It is, what is the time? It is 1:38 in the morning. We have just returned from finding out all about late and live for you.
Yeah.
If you don't know who we are, we're Ian and Jane doing the Edinburgh Fringe. We're quite tired because it's way past our bedtime normally. So Late and Live is a stand-up comedy show, and it has one compare and 5 acts, and every night is different.
Yep.
You don't know who you're going to get till you turn up. Now obviously that can be a double-edged sword, can't it? We met one of our YouTube friends who watches our videos, Paul and his wife and their friends. Hi Paul.
Hi.
He said he was going to watch us, and we'll tell you what Paul's score for the actual show was as well, because he did tell us at the end of the night, which was good. So, shall I read the description?
Yeah, read the
Right,
description.
Okay. The best... excuse me, I've just been eating. I've been eating. I'm sorry, I'm going to spray it everywhere. There we go, it's gone. The best late night show on the Fringe, according to the Scotsman, returns in all its glory, featuring a stellar lineup of very best acts from across the festival every night. The original is still the best late night comedy show at the Fringe, hosted by the best MCs in the country, and then it gives us a whole list of people who, over the years, because it's been running for about, 10 years or something like that, of all the people that's been on it in the last 10 years, which bears absolutely no relevance to what you see now. So Jane's got the names of most of the people we saw. It was quite difficult to listen. It's very loud. And the compare was
Lou Conran.
Lou Conran. Now Lou did about 15-20 minutes at the start, didn't she? I really liked her delivery. I thought she was great, yeah. But there was an awful lot of sexual content and all of that.
It was
sort of
practically 100%.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, yeah.
Lots of effing and jeffing and all of that sort of stuff.
Reference it, yeah. I mean,
yeah. But I really did like her delivery. I'd like to see her being a little bit less blue, to be fair. But that's just us, really.
But I mean, it was almost because everything she said was like that.
Yeah.
You sort of got used to it.
Yeah.
So even
did.
though,
yeah.
But when, I mean, I think I can say this.
You
I mean,
can say
because
it, right?
yeah.
Because it's been and gone.
Yeah. Well, no. What I'm going to say is what she said. Her opening line.
Yeah. Well,
her opening line. I'm not going to say exactly what she said.
But you can, because I can always.
Well, no. What I'm going to say is that she literally came out on stage and said, "If you can smell onions, it's my," and it was a particular part of her anatomy.
You can guess which bit.
Yeah. All right. We don't need to. But that was how it started.
Yeah.
So you can imagine.
And then it all went downhill from there, in a way. But
I mean.
Yeah. But she was very funny.
You became
funny.
You became numb to it
yeah.
by the end.
Yeah.
But having said that, her rapport
with the audience was great, and she actually came down into the audience. In fact, she came down in the audience and we were quite close to the back, and she came past us and was talking to a guy, and she did get him up on stage because he had a moustache. And Oscar, that was it, and dragged him all the way through the front and up onto the stage. So, but she was great actually in one sense. Like I say, I was just Anyway, we've said what we need to say about her.
Yeah.
So she was good, but then. I mean, I have to say, I felt, and I think Jane probably felt the same, most of the other acts were patchy at best, really. Who was next who was the first?
Josh Jones.
Yeah, camp gay guy, I think he said it was.
It was lots about gay sex.
Yeah, lots about gay sex, he was fine, really. He was, if you're,
then it was Charlie George.
Female Charlie George.
Yeah.
I didn't really warm to her act, to be honest.
But it was okay.
It was okay. Yeah. Then
we had a guy called Dan Rath.
This, I have to say, this was the low point.
Wow.
I mean, I think they're meant to do about 15 minutes, and he didn't have a watch on, and he went on and on and on. So much so that I actually said, this guy's not really funny, and this set isn't funny. And I went off to the bar, and it was still going on. But you said somebody at the back.
Well, it got all very surreal. I mean, anyway, I'm not even going to repeat some of what he said. But,
no, I don't. But what was the? What?
But then there was a very odd sort of scene where somebody behind us, we were about just over halfway back, was shouting, saying, "We like your T-shirt," which he on stage couldn't hear. The chap repeated it twice, and then when he asked him to repeat it for a third time, the guy was just
offensive.
Said, no. He just said, I'm not repeating it again. At that point, Dan asked somebody at the front, what did he say? I mean, this was all completely pointless. And he repeated, because he could hear what he'd said. But then, in the meantime, somebody on my right, from the back, basically, get off, or something like that. So at that point, he'd really lost the order. I mean, he'd lost me completely.
While I was still there, he did what I think him and others called crowd work, which was interacting with the audience. Now, usually what happens is, if you're asking somebody in the audience something and they haven't got a microphone, you repeat what they say so that you actually know, so that everybody else knows what's going on. And he didn't do any of that. So we had, he would say something to somebody in the audience, maybe 3 or 4 rows from the front, and we couldn't hear them, and he didn't repeat it, and none of it made sense. And I really do think
it was just rambling, and it wasn't funny.
No.
In my opinion, it wasn't funny.
Mine too. That's why I went to the bar.
And I don't know how long he was on. It just went on and on and on. And I mean, nobody came to get him off. Anyway,
you needed one of those things that grab people on the neck and drag them off.
It was just dreadful.
Anyway, next up,
there was a gentleman.
And in between all of these, Lou comes on and just does the usual sort of.
And then a gentleman called Omar, and I didn't catch
his surname.
The surname, and I can't find it in the Fringe programme. It doesn't come up. So
lots of Muslim jokes, wasn't there? Because he's a Muslim.
Yeah.
Things like burqas and things like that.
Yeah, but I mean, he was okay. It was okay.
It wasn't offensive. It wasn't. No, it wasn't. I mean, obviously, only he can use that sort of material. You could say, because otherwise.
And then, the final act was Randy Feltface.
Now, before you say about Randy Feltface, I watched a little bit of Randy Feltface before we came up to Fringe, and I did have him on our as possibly trying to get to see his show. We don't need to now because we've seen he was on for a good 20-25 minutes.
20 minutes at least.
Yeah, I mean,
he's a puppet.
He's a puppet.
And it was hilarious.
It's a stand-up puppet, really. And he was hilarious. He was great.
Very little reference to sex.
Yeah.
And he was very funny.
Funny.
He was the funniest.
Yeah. One of the funniest things he did was when he said he got a job, and he went, and then he did one of those sort of blow-up what do they call them?
I don't know what. They're sort of like a balloon thing.
When you see
at the front
you see them at the front of
car
dealerships where they're doing all this sort. That joke alone was worth the price of admission because it was really funny. He was fab actually. He was great.
I laughed out loud at him.
Yeah, we did. He was the best thing on the bill.
He was fantastic.
And we would have, like I say, I'd removed it because I knew we weren't going to be able to get to see his show. But actually, I'm really quite pleased that he was the headliner because he was great.
Yeah. At least, we came out.
Yeah.
Fun. Now, of course, the point of this is, as Ian's already said, it falls. Oh, actually, what's the phrase? I'm sorry, it's so late. It stands or falls by who your MC is and who your 5 acts are.
Yeah. So we had a good MC, which would have been better if she wasn't
Well, anyway, that's
quite so.
Yeah. Anyway.
And we had a great headliner in Randy.
Yes.
It was just brilliant. You know, I thought it might be Basil Brushback, but
because
obviously they wheeled out this thing and then Randy comes up. And the rest of them were, well, patchy.
Yep, patchy.
Patchy.
And of course, you had. I mean, you know, it doesn't start till 11:30 at night.
Yeah.
So everybody's well oiled and up for.
Apart from us.
You know, and up
the teetotals.
Hardly, but anyway, everybody's well oiled.
You speak for yourself. Yeah.
And up for a good night.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's quite a receptive audience.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Anything else?
No, not really. I mean, I'm going to say when it is, but we'll do that in a minute. Do you want to give your stars then?
Well, I'm going to give it a generous 3.
I'm going to give it an okay 3, and I mean, we could have gone another night and it would be absolutely brilliant, and that's, well,
when I say generous, I mean it's the same as you. I'm saying,
right,
but
okay.
I'm being generous with the 3.
Yeah. Well, I think it's
okay.
Randy saved it. You could argue.
Absolutely.
Randy saved. Yeah. I mean, if it hadn't been for Randy, Mr. Feltface, it would have been a 2. But we don't really.
And when we came out, we bumped into Paul
again,
and
his wife and her friends.
And he just said, the minute he saw it, he said, "It's a 2."
And he's looking forward to the review. So, but equally, it could have been a 5 had he been a different set of,
if it had been,
a different set of comedians, you know. So,
but, yeah, I understand Paul's too.
Yeah,
and I agree. Yeah. It's a bit like that. But
Randy, I have to say, most of them, apart from Lou and Randy, the laughter was pretty sporadic, wasn't it? Mm. You'd have some people would it was literally, there wasn't any uniformity apart from Randy, there wasn't any uniformity to us laughing as a room full of people. There was, titters or little, odd people around.
I suppose Lou had that.
Lou was, I was excluding Lou. Yeah, she worked the crowd really well actually, but everybody else, and obviously, what's his name? Dan just lost everybody. Dan. So it's a 3, but it could be a 5 on another night, really. So don't be dissuaded by that.
Right, you're going to say
yeah. So it is at the Gilded Balloon Tiviot Debating Hall. Starts at 11:30 on an evening. It doesn't actually start then because there's about 10 minutes worth of very loud music. And a few people dancing and all that right at the beginning, and it has a really quite a buzzy atmosphere to that.
Yeah.
And it finishes early. It says it's 2 hours, but actually it didn't. It finished about quarter past 1, didn't it?
And there were because we were in that venue for Basil Brush, and at the front they make room, so there were some tables with chairs, which makes quite a nice, sort of atmosphere.
So it's on right the way through the Fringe to the 29th, and the average price, I know the average price isn't very, it's fine actually for a 2-hour show, it's £15 with a concession is only 50p off, which is £14.50. So, if you fancy a late night entertainment,
you're probably going to get at least 1 or 2. Even if you don't get all 5, that you really find very funny. So it's probably worth.
It is worth it. I mean, if
you're up for it, it's late, but there's a lot of people around.
There was loads. It wasn't sold out, but it was pretty full. And you could go up to the bar at any time. The bar is 1 floor down. So you could go to the bar at any time, and they were going up and down all the time. So it wasn't, but no, it was, it's a, if you're up for that sort of thing, you're up for a good night out, 15 quid, and see what you get really, In fact, what'd be really good is if you do go on another night, tell us in the comments down below how your night went and how, you know, who you saw, if you can remember, and, you know, who was really good when you saw them, really. You know, they probably pick more up and coming comedians than established comedians, because there's no reason for really established people to do it.
No idea. Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. You obviously want to get to bed.
I do want to get to bed.
Thanks so much for watching. We've got a whole another full day tomorrow, and we'll see you then.
Okay. Bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.